Hey y'all, you ready to talk about butter today? Isn't this hilarious? It looks like I'm being stabbed in the head with a butter knife, but I'm gonna leave it like that. So, I wanted to share with you why butter is important in your cookie recipes. And if you hop on here, be sure and tell me who you are and where you're from. And you can also give StreamYard the okay to share your name with me so I'll know who you are. But my goal this month is to help y'all become better bakers and better cookie decorators by sharing the tips that I've learned throughout the years. I am not a professional pastry chef, but I have learned a lot about making cookies. Isn't this funny? The knife in my head, but I'm just going to leave it like that. So, there are different types of butter that you can get, and sometimes it can be confusing, right? Am I right about it being confusing? So, let's talk about that first. Let me make sure that I'm on the standard for butter is 80% butter fat or milk fat. I'm not sure which is right. So I'm gonna call it butter fat because I like saying the word butter better. So I did a lot of research and I did mainly learned all this stuff when I was preparing recipes to go on the Christmas cookie challenge. I had to create my own recipes. And although I had baked my entire life, I learned a ton about the science of baking, and I just think it's fascinating. I love science. So, like I said, in the United States, the standard for butterfat is 80%. And so, in doing my research, I found, hey, Mimi, I found that Sam's Club, the Kirkland brand from Costco, and what is Sam's Club called? I can't even remember, but Sam's Club butter and Costco butter both contain 80% butter fat. So there really should not be any difference between those two butters. I could not find the percent of butter fat in Walmart butter. I know it has to be 80%, but I couldn't find that information. So if anybody has that, that would be fantastic because I know a lot of people use butter from Walmart. Hello from Connecticut. Yes, Sam's Club is members mark. Thank you, Mimi. Mimi, I always need you on these lives because you always tell me the things that I can't remember. um, Another really good butter to use, first of all, the higher percent butter fat that you use, the better mouth feel that your cookie has because butter is delicious. Um, if you go to Land O'Lakes extra creamy butter, it has 82% butter fat. So it is delicious. It's a little pricier, but sometimes you can find it on sale. And if you find it on sale, you need to stock up, baby, because that is some good butter. Now, regular Land O'Lakes has about 81% butter fat. So that is what I use in my cookie recipe. If you can find that on sale, they'll usually put a really good sale in my grocery store a couple times a year. And I will stock up with that and put it in the freezer because that is my butter of choice is Land O'Lakes. Another really good one is Challenge butter. They have that at my local grocery store. I think Challenge butter might be there. I can't remember the specifics about it, but it does have 81% butter fat. So it's another really good option. Another one is Tillamook. Is that how you say it? Tillamook. Isn't that a fun word to say? Tillamook. Tillamook butter. I need a shirt that says that because that's just a fun thing to say. That is delicious butter. It has about 81% butter fat also, so it's a really good choice. Now, let's talk about European butter because European butter is delicious. European butter has a higher fat content and a lower water content. The ones that I really like, or the one that I like that I just eat all the time, is Kerrygold butter. It's Irish butter. It's grass fed and it has 82% butter fat. And it's just delicious, but it is pricier. So I would not use it in sugar cookies. I think you're sort of wasting it. That butter is good spread on some biscuits or in bulletproof coffee. It's delicious. Now, if you're making special cookies, shortbread cookies, for example, and you want, butter is really the star of the show, they're not going to have icing on it, then I would use a European style butter. Or if you're making things like croissants, biscuits, where you really want that buttery taste, use some European butter. Let's see. You can also get some butter that is 84% butter fat. And I have not tried any of those in the United States, but when I went to France with my oldest son, that's the type of butter they use. And let me tell you, there is nothing like taking a piece of bread in France and slathering that real high butter on top of it. So good. So the real high percentage of fat in the butter, you want to just eat that. I would not use that in your cookies. So I would love to know what kind of butter you all use. That would be really interesting. Again, I use Land O'Lakes. Occasionally I will use Costco butter as well, because sometimes Land O'Lakes gets really, really pricey. And I have great luck with Costco butter. So Land O'Lakes is my number one choice. Costco butter is my number two choice. So what kind of butter do you all use in your recipe? Unsalted versus salted. Tracy, I'm glad you mentioned that, because that is a really important thing. Y'all like how I'm being stabbed right here in the head by the butter? I couldn't find another, I'll sit like this. I couldn't find another image that was free, because you really got it. And I didn't want to pay for a butter image, so I thought I'd use this one. Okay, you want to use unsalted butter in your recipes all the time, because recipe developers develop the recipe based on the amount of salt that is needed. Sometimes that salt, you need that amount to mix with the baking soda, the baking powder, whatever you use. It's really important that you stick to the correct amount of salt in the recipe. And if you use salted butter, you can have too much salt. Do not omit the salt from your recipe and use salted butter. You will not have the type of results that the recipe developer wanted you to have. So unsalted butter. Yes, Mimi, you use Kerrygold. Kerrygold is so good. It is expensive, but if you're making cookies, for that really special person in your life, use Kerrygold, because it's good. It's expensive, but if you use it every now and again, it's okay. Now let's talk about the temperature of butter, because that's very important. 1 stick salted with 1 stick unsalted. If that works for you, Kathy, that's great. But I would never do that, because you could really mess your recipe up if you do not add the amount of salt that the recipe developer wanted you to add. So let's talk about, what were we going to talk? Oh, temperature. Temperature is key in sugar cookie making. You want your butter to be around 65 degrees. And the reason you want it to be like that is because that is the perfect temperature for creaming with your sugar, so that your sugar can make little pings. It's pinging that butter and it's making little air pockets. And that creates leavening when your cookies are baking, and you won't have a dense, hard cookie. So if you do not incorporate enough air, if you do not do the creaming how it's supposed to be done, and I'll share with you in just a second how you do that, then your cookies aren't going to be as good. They maybe could be a little hockey puckish. And we don't want that, right? We want sugar cookies to be delicious. Sometimes decorated sugar cookies can get a bad rap because people think they don't taste good, but mine taste delicious. And I'm sure your alls do too. But if they don't, it's probably because you're not doing these basic science of baking techniques to make sure that you get a really delicious cookie, no matter what recipe you're using. So you want to use butter that is room temperature. If you forget and you don't sit your butter out, what you can do is you can chop it up into little squares. You can put that out and it will heat up to room temperature a lot quicker. Never, ever, 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 ever put your butter in the microwave, because you will have pockets of butter that are too warm and pockets of butter that are too cold. If you have frozen butter, what you can do is you can take a box, those good old fashioned box graters that our moms all had. You take one of those, you just grate your butter, and it will come to room temperature very, very quickly. If you have a stick of butter, the best way to know if it's the correct temperature is by pressing down on it with your finger. And if you leave a slight indentation, it's good. If your finger comes up and it's full of butter, that butter is too soft and you need to put it back in the fridge. If you don't have in the fridge, if you try to press on it and you don't make an indentation, it is way too hard. So you want it to be room temperature so that it creams correctly. The best way to cream butter is you want to put it in your mixer, or if you're using a hand mixer, you want to mix that butter up for a minute by itself. That way you get that really good smooth base before you add your sugar. Next, you're going to add your sugar gradually while you're mixing, and you're going to cream your butter for 3 to 5 minutes. If you're in a hurry, I'm sorry. You're just going to have to wait, and you can cream your butter for 3 to 5 minutes because, like I said, that's when that sugar, it's doing the job of making all those little air holes into that butter so that your cookie bakes perfectly. If you don't cream your butter and sugar for long enough, then it will be real gritty. You don't want that. You can tell that it's creamed correctly because it becomes real light and fluffy. And usually that takes about 3 to 5 minutes. What you're doing is you're aerating your butter. It's aeration. I just looked that up. Don't I sound smart? It's the process of aeration. So the next important thing is you want to scrape your bowl a couple times when you are mixing your butter and sugar together, because you want to make sure that you get all those pieces of butter that are stuck to the side mixed in. Can you overcream the butter and sugar? Yes, you can, Mimi. That is a great question. And what happens when you do that is you are warming the butter up too much. And you don't want to do that. You want to basically keep it at room temperature. So yeah, 3 to 5 minutes, you're golden. You're good. So any questions about butter? Today, we're just talking about butter and sugar, but we're going to talk about other things throughout the week. So anybody have a specific question about butter, the kind of butter to use in your recipe? Is that at high speed? Yes, that's a great question. I do medium speed. I use a mixer, the kind of mixer that everybody uses, a stand mixer. And I'll start it out at low speed, because that way I don't have an explosion of butter, and sugar flying around my kitchen. And then I'll turn it up to medium and I'll do it on medium. It's a stand mixer. I mix it on medium, starting it on low until it's good and incorporated. Then I take it up to medium. Let's see. Make sure I don't have any other questions. This is going to go on all month, y'all. So be sure and join me. It'll be funny to see what kind of image that I have tomorrow. Hopefully it won't be something with a knife stabbing me in the head. But some more things that are going to come this week. We're going to decorate some fun Easter cookies together. We're going to learn about flour. We're going to learn about some other ingredients, and just make sure that we start out the year with delicious sugar cookies, because it's really interesting. I'll be on a lot of cookie sites on Facebook, and people will say, I use this recipe that everybody uses and it didn't turn out. And I want to ask all the questions. Well, how warm was your butter? How cool was your butter? What kind of sugar did you use? What kind of flour did you use? Because it makes a big difference. And y'all, I love science. I mean, it is my thing. I love science. So, like I said, when I was preparing for the Food Network Christmas Cookie Challenge, I had to create my own recipes. And the only way I knew to do that was to find out the science of baking and to learn what every single ingredient does. That way I could create my own recipes, and I've just found it fascinating. You're welcome. Whoever thanked me, who are you? Because I can't see your name. But I love this. I'm glad that you all are on here. If you are watching on the replay, be sure and ask me any questions that you have. And then last but not least, you can go onto my website. I've changed. You can go to cheerfulcutters.com and it'll go to the same place. But my new website is cheerfulbaker.com. Cheerfulbaker.com. You can go to the blog section and you can see my blog. What's it called? I don't even remember. It's all about butter. And you can read some more about butter. Plus, I have a great article that I found about butter grading, because you always want to use either AA or A graded butter. And it talks all about that in the article. I found it really fascinating. I will also link a copy of my blog post about this in the comments. And that's all. Thank you, Mimi. Y'all have a great day, and I'll be back tomorrow. Bye.